Hey guys, so I thought that I would talk about this today because this migraine has been wild. I haven't talked a lot about the serotonin fluctuations and things like that, or even the anhedonia. I mean, I have talked about it a bit, obviously the anhedonia, but it's been a while since my last health update, and I would say at this point it's been about 8 weeks since my reverse dye ended. And as you guys know, and as I believe too, and as we all kind of know, it takes your body 8 weeks around there to adjust to different serotonin levels. And so I think that that's happening now. And so I have one hell of a migraine. I have been obsessed with Maggots for Brains by Olivia lately, and I feel that way because this has been the longest pre-dome migraine post-dome I've had ever, I think. Where even 2 days later, I still have a migraine hangover. I still have a little bit of it going on and slight symptoms. But the night that it happened was Tuesday night. It was so bad. I couldn't sleep because it was so painful and it actually hurt to lay down, which is crazy. I don't think I've ever experienced that. I ended up having to do massage or something because I didn't know where my aspirin was, so I just didn't take anything. And I did this massage where I held this muscle back here, and then I was able to go to sleep, basically. So yeah, and I had some pre-dome symptoms before, a lot of restlessness and weird feelings and stuff, where it's you feel you want to jump out of your skin or something a little bit. And I was crabby and stuff, a little bit irritable and things like that in the days leading up to the migraine. But I think it's one of those situations where there's multiple factors at the same time. So it's in part the changing season. So the solstice, we're getting to that point. So my body is adjusting to that, seeing it happen. You know, I've lived in this area for a few years now. So it's it knows that this is the time where it's going to start to shift and the days are going to start getting shorter. So there's some thyroid stuff that's happening there, which it typically would be very subtle, but because of the fact that I did a deeper CalDef in February to April, it's worse. I don't know why I layered everything on top of itself. I don't know what I was thinking. I feel I made it as hard as it could be, but I'm thinking that this should be the last bad migraine, bad moment, and then it should just kind of get easier after this. I'm hoping. I think, anyway. Typically, when I'm going through the anhedonia or the reverse dieting phase, a migraine is a sign that the brain is adjusting to serotonin. And so I tend to have less anhedonia after, more emotion, less food noise, all that stuff after. So I will see how I feel after this. But it has been weird, especially after, where I felt I felt very insecure all of a sudden, and I don't usually feel that way that often at this point. And depressed and these kind of feelings. I don't get depressed that often, but I've just been dealing with so much dopamine adjustment and serotonin adjustment. Everything has just been all over the place, and it leaves me with a lot of thoughts too, because I feel people so often talk about the benefits of vanity downsizing, and I'm still doing it. I still have quite a process. It's probably going to be another year, but it's just very slow. But I feel people, I don't know. It's I think the amount that people act it makes a huge difference versus what it has actually been, I feel very lied to, I guess, and kind of bitter, honestly. And I don't really listen to what people say because they'll be like, well, you have to get to this point, you have to get to that point. To me, that gets into like TR logic. It starts to shift. Like, it's a spectrum. So there should be some difference after a year, or there should be something, some kind of shift. And I just don't, I'm not seeing it. So I'm like, I feel like I definitely had a moment in December where I knew I looked better, but I was punished. And then that's basically all I got, you know. And then I had a little bit of thin privilege, like from March, where I could kind of tell it was a little bit better, but it wasn't that big of a deal, you know. So I just don't agree, I guess for me, I feel very lied to about that stuff. And I think about how I did it, and I think about like if it was worth it a lot. Which I think that it's good to be honest about those feelings. Sorry, it's hot and I can't have the window down, so I'm sweating because it's hot. And I can't have the window down, as you can hear the rain. Because, yeah. But anyways, so I think it's just an important thing to consider because it's a lot of work. Like, I think a vanity era is so much work. And you put so much into it and you get so little out of it. And I think that it's part of what demoralizes people, because you often hear the opposite online, or you hear that it's so incredible and everything is amazing and blah, blah, blah. And I think what it is I think people just develop a higher standard for themselves and they just want to maintain that. So they just kind of say that, you know, which is fine. I mean, I don't know, whatever. I just don't think that I guess maybe it's also from my perspective as somebody who has gone from like being super huge to average. There was such a huge jump between like being mid-size and average, where I was treated so much better in that frame, that it's like within that context, that whatever benefit I've had since becoming average, I think it just pales in comparison. And I feel like just basically no longer being fat is kind of the big deal. I feel like that's the big social deal. That's the big moment. And other than that, I just don't think it's that different. So I just really push for the idea that you need to have your own standard always. Because the work that goes in versus what you get out, it really is not that much. So, but if you have your own standard and you want to look a certain way, or you want to be in like this certain type of vibe, or maybe if you're in a certain career or something, I think it could make sense. But if you're not, I just think it's worth questioning, you know. And certainly the pacing of it, like I don't want to say I regret the pacing. I don't. I think when I downsized last year and I did it quick, in a vanity sense, I think it was important activistically, and I think it really pushed the idea that you are not going to necessarily regain, and that all that is BS, basically. So I think I really beat that down, like, very well with my vanity journey. And remember, like, that was basically like, you know, my reasons were not super like individual. You know, I told you guys my reasons. My reasons were I wanted to make more of an activistic point, be a better activist. I wanted to experience what it was like so that I could understand people better that are doing, like, you know, the cottage cheese and light popcorn and all that stuff. I wanted to pursue spiritual growth by like rebalancing my chakras. And then I was trying to definitely impress Mr. Jordy too, or trying to like put more pressure on that dynamic, for sure. But I don't think it really mattered that much. Like, I think even in terms of the romantic side, I think what made the biggest difference was just not being fat, you know? And I think that fatness is such a downer. I don't know what else to say. It really brings you down. And so that I will say, so like being obese, it does bring you down. But I think once you make it to average, the differences are very marginal. And I feel like it possibly even undermines some of my efforts romantically. You know, I think it sometimes came across as competitive, or I came across as too cold, or like I was too tired to work on other aspects with him. And I feel like I don't know, it's like maybe there was a little bit less perspective, and I don't think I could have known that had I not experienced it. And I feel like a lot of people probably wouldn't believe me. I think sometimes you have to experience it to really see it. But if I tell you this and then you experience it and then you like upsize because of it, then you're stupid. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to upsize. I'm not going back. Everything I've lost, I'm keeping off. I'm still going to continue to lose over the next year, basically, but just very glacial, and it's going to be the background of my life. It's not going to be the foreground like it was last autumn. But I just have a lot of those feelings. Like, was it enough? Was it worth it? And I think it was worth it, but in ways that people don't typically think, or in ways that are hard to understand. So, for example, activistically, it was totally worth it. It was one of the greatest assaults on the TR myth that regain is inevitable. So not only to not be fat anymore, but to continue to downsize and to keep it off into this kind of stuff. It was so aggressive activistically. And I think it was perfectly executed in that sense. For my own standards, I think, you know, probably that 175-ish is probably where my personal standard is for myself. So it's not that I did it purely for Mr. Jordy. It's that it was probably rushed a little bit, in part because of him, and then in part because of the activism, right? And so, but I think I would have eventually wanted that anyways. So doing it up front the way that I did, it's gonna make this next part super easy, basically. So it's like, it's worth it because the hard part is over. Now I can basically enjoy my life, still continue to downsize, and get whatever gains or whatever are gonna come from that, and from my own satisfaction with my body over the next year in a very easy way. I won't have any career disruptions, relationship disruptions, hormonal disruptions like this migraine, for example, in the future, right? So I think that you have to really come at it from a very logical perspective, and you can't sit there and like put more into it than what it is, you know? Because I think that that's what people do. Because like I said, even romantically, I feel like he perceived it as me competing with him or something. Or like I was doing it so that I could move on, you know, that kind of thing. And that was never my intention. That was never what I was doing it for. But it comes across that way. Or it can come across, sometimes things come across in a different way than what you would expect. Just like a lot of my audience felt that I was being competitive with them too. And it, like, a lot of people were triggered and like upset, which I also didn't really expect. But I just think these kind of dynamics are really interesting to think about, like intellectually, especially now that it's over. But while I was doing it, it was hard. It was tough. It was a bitch. And so I guess my cheesy horror movie comparison for Vanity weight loss is I would compare it to the One Wish Willow. You know, it's very much a be careful what you wish for. And you have to be like very deliberate in what you're doing. And you, like, when you're making that wish, you gotta be super specific about that wish, basically. Because if you don't, then you will flop it and you will lose it and you will waste your time. And to me, it's like, that's the one thing I don't want, is I don't want that time to be wasted, because it was really hard and it was a lot of work. And even this year, it was still a lot of work. You know, it wasn't as hard as the autumn, but the spring was a bitch. It was hard because I was trying to keep everything up. So I was doing it in a deeper way, but I wasn't allowing it to get in the way of my YouTube career or get in the way of my relational pursuit or relational work, attachment style, interaction type of stuff. I wasn't letting it get in the way of that. And it was really miserable and really hard to do all of it at the same time. And I still, like I said, am downsizing, but now I feel like it's like we're getting really into the Kesha era now, where it's really easy in terms of like the process, because it's just like a 250 cow death, you know? And it's glacial. And although this summer solstice and all this anhedonia and weird migraine schlit is coming up, it will pass and things will get easier throughout the rest of the year and throughout the rest of my downsizing, because it will just go slower and slower, and it will be so like glacial that any anhedonia, lodo, whatever, I probably won't even feel it, you know? So although I have these feelings sometimes of, you know, an Olivia Rodrigo cigarette smoke of give me back my time, you know, because I feel like I don't know if it was worth it. I think it was worth it, but it was more so worth it in the sense that the hard part is over. I completed that. I completed the point. Even within my activism, the hard part is over. I've proven the point time and time again, bar none. And I do feel like I have more credibility now. I feel like I achieved that. And there's still so much more work to do, and there's still so much that I want to do, but getting back to my life is really my priority now. And I see like this summer is going to heat up, and I'm going to start having plans. Like I'm going to be going to Cali again for my birthday, and then I'm going to be going to a concert in August, and you know, there's just things filling up my schedule. I'm going to be able to enjoy the 4th of July this year rather than working it like I usually do. Like there's just certain things that are happening right around the corner, and I feel like this last week or so of June, or 2 weeks, it's very backrooms. I just have to put as many references to cultural girly pop moments as I can, but I feel like I'm in a backrooms luminal space right now, and so I have to just like let it be, which is weird, but I'm trying to rest as I'm like on the precipice of basically going whole hog into the Kesha era. I think that this first part of it, so from February till now, it was more of a transition period, because I don't think I could just go from that super deep introvert phase to like this extrovert phase. And so I feel like I didn't get to experience all of the Kesha era yet, and I feel like it's coming. So I feel like getting your life back, getting things off the ground again, post strict Vanity downsizing, I think it is a process. I think especially if you're introverted, it is a process, because it's really a shift of goal and a shift of perspective. And I do feel like the in-between phase, so like that CalDef, it did kind of help me too, because I could deal with I could kind of take a breather before I had to deal with all my emotions again, which I know is kind of toxic, but it's not super toxic because I'm not under or anything. But you have to like understand, I've been doing this for years. You know, it's really hard to shift gears. So I feel like this way that I'm shifting gears now, where I don't have to go deep in the CalDef ever again, I feel like I can still adjust, or like it's gonna make maintenance more sustainable, or it's easier. It's like a phasing out rather than like a hard stop, I think is easier for me specifically, just because I've done it for years. So the point is, I'm gonna succeed. I have all the confidence in the world, honestly. I don't have any doubts that I'll keep the weight off or anything at all. And I don't care if that pisses people off, but I was very intentional about it, and I've been extremely intentional about how I was doing this, and it works. So if you are intentional and strategic, and again, you're real careful with that one wish willow, and you really make that wish specifically, then it will be fine. But as what happened in the movie, if you don't, it can go really bad and you can fail. And most of the time that I'm talking about vanity downsizing, I'm not coming at it from a toxic ritualistic perspective all the time. I'm just trying to like give my advice on how to actually succeed and how to process these things. And you have to process, like, you do have to deal with it, because you're probably going to feel like you put in so much work and you didn't get it enough out. You might feel that way, especially if you worked very hard, and you have to deal with that or you will flop. If you do not come like past those emotions, you will flop. So I'm just telling you, that may happen, and it's happening with me, and I think I figured it out. But make peace with your decision, vanity wise. And I think that that's basically what I'm trying to say, is make peace. And I have made peace with it, and it is time to get back to my life, and it is time to do these things and just go like whole hog now. And I'm excited, even if I'm sitting in the back rooms for 2 more weeks. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.